You're listening to the Zach Gelb Show on Fox Sports 920 The Jersey.
Welcome back in. Zach Gelb Show, Fox Sports 920 The Jersey. 443 from the Princeton Orthopedic Associates Studios. Pedestrian football game last night. My next guess, he must be miserable. He probably doesn't know what to do with himself. And that's John Barchard from Bleeding Green Nation, who's kind enough to hop on board with me right now. Let's make sure that John's in a good mood today. John, how are you, my friend?
Are you kidding me? I was celebrating. I cracked the champagne at 9 a.m. That was a wonderful Thursday night game. How you doing, Zach?
It was unbelievable, and I appreciate you joining us. Eagles 28, Panthers 23 last night, and this Eagles team just continues to impress me each and every week. I thought they were going to be a 9-7 team going into the season. I could see the argument for 10 wins, but my oh my, what a job they've done to start off this season.
Yeah, and the thing I keep coming back to, and obviously everybody's impressed with Carson Wentz and how this offense is basically kind of doing whatever it kind of feels like doing, but the defense just with missing their starting corners and not being able. I mean, with Patrick Robinson of all people, it's crazy. And you were down there too. You saw everything that we all saw. Didn't look great, and then he's been more than serviceable in the slot on the outside, filling in for Ronald Darby. Rasul Douglas stepping up in a lot of ways last night. Still some rookie mistakes that go in between there, but I think having Fletcher Cox back last night was phenomenal. The defensive line and really the front seven. Nigel Bradham played probably the best game of his career against these guys. Didn't really bite on any of the cheese that they were doing with jet sweeps. Didn't really, made an incredible play to force the Panthers out on a fourth down punt after destroying Christian McCaffrey and a little bit of himself there as well. They're just humming. It's a really great unit. You can see it with the secondary and the DBs, and how this team just feels like it's together. And oddly enough, it's a far discussion from last season when we're still questioning Doug Peterson. And although that happened, in Kansas City, and everybody talked about 4th and 8 against the Giants for forever, it seems to be dissipating rather quickly here. It's a great team, and it's a lot of fun to watch right now.
Let me touch on what you said about Bradham, because last night I said move over Gary Maddox. It's now 2/3 of the earth is covered by water. The rest is Nigel Bradham. Last year, he had his ups and downs, of course. He played good on the field, but off the field had a few problems. This year, though, he's just everywhere. His speed is so elite, and you're really seeing it. What's the biggest difference from last year where, he was good, but this year he's been playing great consistently?
Yeah, he kind of dipped there, I think, towards the middle of the year where it was just, I'm not exactly sure what I could pinpoint there either, but whatever he's done now, and a lot in the offseason, I know that he was taking, boxing classes and some martial arts classes and things like that to work on hand speed, to work on agility and things like that. And you can really kind of see that happening. I mean, they trust him to cover wide receivers, tight ends, running backs, whatever it is. Like, he does cover that middle of the field, just like you said. He takes care of half of it. Jordan Hicks goes out. He's the number one guy that's up there. And the defense didn't miss a beat, which is the craziest thing ever. I mean, the ability of his sideline maneuvering and just his downhill tackling ability, it's not a different player. It's just a guy that's really taken himself seriously in the off season, and I think he had one of the best quotes, and I think Teron Davenport got it from him yesterday, saying one of the Panthers players came out to him and said, "Man, I didn't know you could ball like that." he responds deadpan, dead serious, saying, "Well, guess you haven't been watching football then, huh?" So
that's great. You look at this front seven, John, and they're playing as good as a unit, front seven as anyone probably in the National Football League. And last night, Cam through the first 3 quarters had a good game. They were beating the snot out of him, though. They were taking away the run. Only Cam could get anything on the ground from a running game. But those 3 interceptions were so big. The Fletcher Cox play was so big. This front seven, really fits that identity of Philadelphia. Or this is just a physical unit. I don't know if there's a better front seven in the National Football League right now.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. And the addition of Timmy Jernigan, I was a tiny bit skeptical about. But man, is that skepticism long gone? I mean, like all the two-gapping, all the stuff that he was doing in Baltimore, the type of like the motor and the gas doesn't run out. It certainly hasn't thus far. I mean, they treated those guys like paper mache yesterday. I felt like I was watching loose leaf paper trying to stand up in the middle of there. And those are pretty good guards in between there as well. But it's just like It's unbelievable. That's what makes or breaks, I think, a lot of the secondary, too. I mean, you mentioned it with Cam getting pressure there. There was literally a play where Fletcher Cox took his guy and ran him into Cam Newton, and there's Rasul Douglas with an interception. I mean, how many times do you see that? And I thought the defensive line, and along with Jim Schwartz, kind of has the best game plan for Cam. It's just, you're gonna keep him in there, and you're gonna give him a very short arm length to throw the football, and it really worked, especially towards the end. And there's a couple of, not that we want to get into Pete Morelli because the Eagles won the game.
He was terrible. He was terrible. No, we'll get into him. That refereeing display last night was absolute garbage.
Yeah, I mean, just atrocious now. And they go back to the last 4 games that he's refed against the Eagles, and of course, we're all going to pay attention to it when it's completely lopsided. Something like 409 yards worth of penalties, and 30 with the ratio for the opposing teams being, somewhere around like 6 or 7, and the 20, 25 yards somewhere around there. I don't know what is up with that guy. I felt like during the game it felt like Detroit from Week 5, and I was waiting for Ryan Matthews' ghost to kind of show up and fumble a football or something, and thank God it didn't happen because. Just going back to what we were talking about in the beginning, like that's why this Eagles team is so great because they didn't let the refs beat them and they didn't let Carolina beat them, and that's something that didn't happen last year. So, Carson Wentz standing in there taking a lot of different shots. Halapuli Vaitai, although it started to look pretty bad early on, kind of came back around and was solid in replacement for Lane Johnson, and that's another guy that. They didn't have in this game either on a short week going away into Carolina, which is awesome. It's also astounding that road teams now on Thursday Night Football are 5-1 this year. They're kind of bucking the trend that they have in the past, and yeah, it's just a different team, Zach. And I think if you're an Eagles fan, get excited. Like start thinking about Super Bowl, start thinking about contendership, all that stuff. Like you're allowed to do that. Doesn't mean that it's going to happen, but I think that it's really hard to find. Them a spot lower than 3rd in the NFC right now.
If they keep on playing this way, the coach said it last week, the sky's the limit, and that's the bottom line. And I'm not going to throw out Super Bowl yet because there's still a lot of football to be played, but the sky's the limit with this team, especially with the way the defense is playing and the whole team just in general. Carson Wentz being an MVP type of player this year. Hey, I just want to get back to one thing with the referees. Do you think the ref last night maybe was throwing a little action on the game and maybe had the Panthers minus the 3?
He had to be. He had absolutely. Like, how do you not call an armbar over Alshon Jeffrey, but then call a love tap from Mills or a block in the back that is non-existent after a beautifully designed Doug Peterson, Carson Wentz pulls it down and runs it for 19 yards, and then you call that little ticky-tack stuff. I have no idea what's going on with the guy. He was one of the worst referees in the NFL. He should never be able to call an Eagles game again, and really, I think they're not the only ones. He tags a certain amount of teams that go through there. I'm astounded by how they let that guy still ref games in the NFL.
Talking to John Barchard from Bleeding Green Nation Radio right now on the Zach Gelb Show, Fox Sports 920 The Jersey. John, during the OTA period and also all the mini camps and training camps, I always really did like the coaching Corey Unlin was doing. And I said if the Eagles ever get on Hard Knocks, this guy's going to be one of those studs on Hard Knocks. Just how about the job he's doing with the secondary? Even heard Doug Peterson say the other day, when they got Patrick Robinson, it was basically just to get another body for depth purposes. And I don't think Unlin gets enough credit right now.
No, that's one guy that doesn't get mentioned a lot of the time. And there was some kind of like, all right, who is this guy? Because he improved the first year that he was here with Chip Kelly. Then it was kind of a dip last year with the group that they had, and then you realize, okay, it really was a talent problem. And the fact that you're right to get Patrick Robinson to where he is through OTAs, through training camp, to get in the system, to make these guys feel comfortable, and the same with the rookies too, to have Rasul Douglas be in there and just make him look and feel like a vet. And even before Darby went down, you even saw in preseason games a lot of training camps and things like that where he looked like he'd been playing there for 1 or 2 years already. Very comfortable with the defense. Really knows his guys really well too, and he preaches constant technique, and he looks like he's a really, really, really good teacher of just all of those different things, and especially during red zone drills. I remember him just kind of guiding every single person, any little thing that comes along, not too up, not too down, just right, very vocal, very into his guys. And I think that's a ton of the reason why the secondary room is so close-knit together. He's created that big bond, and they've made everybody accountable there. And, the same thing with, cheering for all the good plays and hammering all those guys when they're not making plays. And I think he's created a great room for them.
I remember I was standing next to his mother over the summer, and I didn't know that they were related. Like, that was his mother that I was standing next to. But eventually, I guess his daughter was there, and they said, like, where's Daddy? And then Corey comes walking over, and Unlin just goes to his mom, hey, Mama, how's my mouth today? Because he's right in front of his girl and his mom, and he's dropping a few F-bombs at some of the players with probably the stress at the time that we thought of this secondary. So that was some good stuff from Corey.
Yeah, absolutely. That's my favorite part, too. And, like, it can go from that immediately to a family man. So I remember Chris Maragos coming over with his kid and doing the same thing and throwing him up in there and having a lot of fun. Corey Unlin seems like a guy that you definitely want to hang out and have a beer with and maybe even invite to meet your grandma for Thanksgiving dinner. He seems like a really good coach and a really good guy.
Well, let's get to the Wentz wagon. Third down, it's just every time there's a third down now, a big play's coming. Last night it happened with Matt Collins, a great throw by Carson Wentz. Wentz is a leader, physical player, not afraid to extend the play and go get that first down. Deep ball has been improving week by week. Anything you want to say to our friend in Ireland, Keon Fahey, or maybe that dope in Skip Bayless? What do you want to say to those guys who are critical of the Wentz wagon?
I mean, Skip is whatever. Skip's going to be that's old hat now. But how does Fahey have a job with ESPN?
I have no
Honestly.
clue.
How the hell did he get to where he was at this point? How do you defend Ryan Tannehill? How do you defend a bunch of guys that cannot play the position? Then you look at that and go, well, I guess 17 of his passes were interceptable passes, and I'm smartest guy in the room. And I block literally everybody that thinks so. And all the guys that I like are currently benched and not playing right now. I have no idea how you can look at – listen, if you don't think that Carson Wentz is in the top tier – fine, that's a great debate to have, and what he needs to work on to get there or whatever. But if you look at that guy and what he's been able to do the past 6 weeks of playing football from where he was the previous year, when your takes were there's no way that Carson Wentz can improve because bad quarterbacks just stay bad, which is also an asinine, ridiculous statement, that weapons don't matter, that all these other things and all these other factors that apply to other quarterbacks, somehow they dodge Carson Wentz. And I don't get draft Twitter. I don't get Fahey. I don't get a lot of these guys that are just digging in, doubling down on this guy. It's going to make it great. Listen, I warned all of them. You have one more week. You can take the draw. You can step away. You can delete your old tweets. You're saying, I'll take the loss here. Carson seems like he's a good quarterback, and now let's evaluate him fairly. Otherwise, we made a rule at BleedingGreenNation.com and on BGN Radio just on our latest podcast. If you don't take the draw, it's Wentz again. And we're going through every single take. We're going to be so incredibly Philadelphia petty, so they have 1 week to do it. And if it's not by then there's going to be a lot of payments. Let's just say that much.
Here's one more thing, and I don't like the guy because I think he's an ass, but Mike Lombardi. I wasn't the biggest Doug supporter. I was dubious of Doug. But even with my doubts on Doug, I thought he was so premature, ridiculous, hot take garbage from Mike Lombardi, who was once on this show and after 9 minutes and 30 seconds said this is the longest interview he's ever had to do in his life. And, he had to run, and usually his hits aren't this long. And anything you want to say to Mike Lombardi? Because, I want to support Dougie P. I'm feeling real good about the coach right now.
Yeah, sure. Hey, how about this? Maybe not try to get your friend Jim Schwartz a head coaching job while he's as a defensive coordinator. How about that, Mike? How about calm down for a moment? And it's so funny, too, because, it's amazing the turnaround from Duck, because he was kind of responsible for everybody getting together and be like, hey, whoa, you can't say that, even though we totally want him fired after the Cincinnati Bengals game last year. And he brought a bunch of Philly fans kind of together, and it's weird to see where Doug is now. He's clearly qualified to coach a football team because I think he's an excellent play caller. His other stuff, sure, that can be up in the air. But who has the balls to say, yeah, let's just go for two here? Oh, they gave us a penalty. We're going to go on the 1 yard line. Let's give it to LeGarrette Blount. And that changed the entire momentum of the game. I like Doug. I don't know where he fits on the spectrum quite yet. I think he's done a fantastic job. I think if him and Carson are together, if they're going to win a lot of games together.
One more point, Donnie Jones. I don't think he gets enough credit because last night had a big punt that pinned the Panthers inside the 10 that did lead to the Fletcher Cox play that had the interception as well. Just how about what Donnie Jones is able to do? I know we don't usually give a lot of love to punters, but he deserves some love.
I'm going to give love to not only the punter but the kicker too. Donnie Jones,
yeah,
absolutely, because he's the holder. So the field position was great on that. I mean, it really allowed because Carolina is such a we have to run the football team, even though we can't. And when you're able to get those away and pin those guys back, field position really matters at that point. It's not, it's sure you can say it's a Big Ten school of thought that happens there, but it really worked last night. He did a phenomenal job. Jake Elliott, 48 and 50, automatic, man. He's never going to miss again. He's never going to miss.
You may want to tweet that so we could sometimes use that against you if we ever need to take you.
It's already up. October 1st. I said it already.
Okay. Hey, true or false, John Barchard from Bleeding Green Nation. Last night you were running around naked wherever you live because I heard some rumors about that from some of your neighbors.
Not naked, but definitely in underwear. There was definitely bourbon being poured, and I was might have been swinging a few shirts and towels above my head, but not completely naked.
I guess you got to wait a few weeks to do that, right?
Yeah. Yes, that's right.
You got it, John. Great stuff. We appreciate it, my man.
Thanks, pal.